LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you have an event or occasion coming up that could use a special touch? Perhaps a wedding, a production, a show? Good! Then you're in luck. Hayley Moores is who you're looking for. Hayley is a makeup artist in the Toronto, Ontario area, specializing in bridal, glam, natural, and special effects. She's incredibly talented, professional, easy to work with, and has a personality that is second to none. To book Hayley Moores today, follow her on Instagram at mad_milash, that's MAD_MILASH, or email her at madmilash, again, that's MADMILASH @gmail.com. Book Hayley Moores today, you'll be glad you did. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you find yourself reminiscing on what life was like when you were younger? Do your favorite songs, movies, and TV shows instantly take you back to a simpler time? Great! Then you're in the right place. Join me, Leigh Dickey, on my new web series and podcast, Yo Nostalgia, where I cover everything you grew up with. From films and toys to fads and trends, Yo Nostalgia has it all. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are available. Follow along on social media at Yo Nostalgia Show to keep up on this time-traveling trip. Yo Nostalgia, breathing new life into your memories, available everywhere now. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. Do you enjoy good conversation? Are you a person with many passions? Perfect. Then the Beats and Speaks podcast is for you. Join me, Leigh Dickey, every Friday for stories and interviews about everyday life with everyday people about everyday things. Everyone has a story, and I just want to help them tell it. The Beats and Speaks podcast, your everyday life, everyday stories, everyday people, comedy and entertainment audio joyride. Subscribe and download on LEIGHTDICKEY.com, Leigh Dickey TV on YouTube, and your favorite podcast app. The Beats and Speaks podcast, available everywhere now. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com. What's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Today, this week, I want to tell you why I will never get on board with virtual reality or VR gaming, if you will, or, well, just VR in general. I will never get on board with it, and I will tell you why. But before we get into why I will never get on board with VR gaming or just virtual reality in general, I want to tell you where you can find the Beats and Speaks podcast. Of course, new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast are released every single Friday on my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever your podcast can be found and wherever you get your podcast. We're on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV, so please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Rate us 5 stars and leave us reviews too if you would, please, and thank you. Follow along with me and the show at Leigh T. Dickey on social media. Send your comments, questions, guest requests, and ideas for episodes to LeighTDickey@gmail.com. Remember, new episodes are available every single Friday, so subscribe on your favorite podcast app and player of choice. Now that all the housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into the main event, get into why you are really here, and that is why I will never get on board with VR gaming or virtual reality as a whole right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast. Alright, so yes, why I will never get on board with VR gaming or virtual reality in general. Now don't get me wrong, I love video games as much as the next person. I was a big gamer as a kid going through high school and even into like my early 20s. I just kind of fell out of love with it. You know, I think the latest console that I have is a PlayStation 3. And even then, I bought that 7 years after the console itself was launched. So I'm not, really big. It's just, I don't have to get something right away. And I wasn't all that concerned with not getting a PlayStation 3 right as they came out. And I think it was like early 2006. And it wasn't something on my radar. I bought the PlayStation 3 for just casual gaming, because that's pretty much what I do nowadays. I used to be really into gaming. I had a lot of consoles growing up, and I decided to go the Sony route, got myself a PlayStation 3 when I was about 24, and to be honest, I use it mainly now to stream things off of YouTube or like the various entertainment platforms like Netflix, or wherever you can get like episodes or movies of TV, episodes of TV shows or movies, things like that. Just I use it to stream things. I use it to stream my entertainment if I can't find anything on, my satellite dish or whatever, my regular cable or satellite dish or antenna hookup, if you will. But I'll never really get into virtual reality gaming or like just virtual reality in general, just because I turn on the console to unwind, and I grew up, you used a controller, not a virtual like helmet, so to speak. I know that the PlayStation VR is a big thing, and it's huge. People have those, and I'm pretty sure it's bundled with the PlayStation 4 these days. But I don't feel like putting on sort of a rather large like pair of goggles or helmet or whatever it is to play a game. Yes, I know it like sort of immerses you into the gameplay, and it's like you're actually doing it, you're right there. But to put on an extra sort of helmet or pair of goggles and other sort of items like gloves or anything that's any extra kind of gear that I have to put on in order to entertain myself and play a game, I just don't want to do. The other part of that is I suffer from motion sickness. I get car sick quite a bit if I obviously if I haven't had anything to eat and I'm in the back seat of a car. It usually happens if I'm in the back seat of a car, not the front seat. But if I'm in the back seat of a car, then yeah, chances are if I haven't had anything to eat and it's just a cup of coffee in my system, I'll probably get motion sick. I'll probably get car sick or motion sick. I'm no good when it comes to like going to amusement parks and roller coasters. I suffer from motion sickness. It's not cool. Not something I'm proud of, but I know with virtual reality, I think Nintendo had this problem with the Virtual Boy where it's pretty much a pair of goggles on a stand, even though it's a universally panned console, and I did an episode about it. I'll link it in the description and in the cards if you're listening to this on YouTube. But I know it's a universally panned console because of the way it was designed, and yes, they've made advancements and things have gotten much, much better. Still, having to wear an extra peripheral, like a pair of goggles or a helmet and gloves and just anything with sensors in it to pretty much throw you into the game, I'm not for. It's just not my thing. I'd much rather just give me a controller, give me a game, give me something simple. Let me get a few rounds in, and then I can go on about my merry way and just go on about my business and go on about my day. To be honest, if you're gonna ask me what types of games I do play nowadays, it's mainly like the ones based around the popular game shows like Wheel of Fortune, The Price is Right, Family Feud, Press Your Luck, things like that. Something simple where I can just push a button. Either I get a whammy, I get some prize money or whatever. And the same thing with Wheel of Fortune. Spin, you either hit bankrupt or you hit a dollar amount, you guess a letter, you solve a puzzle, and that's it. Like I just want something simple that I can get a few rounds in, play a game or two if they go quickly enough, and then just go on about my day. I'm super casual when it comes to these things. Like the biggest thing that I play games on nowadays is my iPad and my smartphone. That's it. Like you can count those things as game consoles now, even though they're pretty much, well, they're tablets. And I mean, you can count tablets and phones as game consoles now because of the apps and the games that are developed for these devices themselves. It's just, getting back to VR gaming and virtual reality, I don't know whether I want to, aside from getting motion sick, I'm not sure I want to get to a point where I'm not saying that, the Wii Fit was not a bad idea. Wii Fit was not a bad idea. It just, and it got people up and exercising again and what have you. But I just don't feel like putting on extra peripherals and gear and just have a lot of things just hanging off of me to the point where I'm not going to enjoy the game if I'm like fumbling around with the headset or the headpiece and then gloves if they have it and just any other thing that you have to use to sort of get yourself into the VR mode, the virtual reality mode, if you will. It's just not something I know I'm going to enjoy. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it's great. And I know that one of my favorite podcasts, the What Culture Gaming podcast, they talked about, the virtual reality element when it comes to like the Marvel games and what have you. But I'm not into that because I know I'll get sick because I suffer from motion sickness. It's something I've had to deal with my entire life. And I'm not into just strapping something around my head or putting on any other pair of peripherals or whatever else they have, and try to enjoy this and try to entertain myself. My base of entertainment comes from what do I like? What do I like to watch? What do I like to play? And I grew up in the time when you had controllers. You know what I mean? Like I grew up, my first console was a Sega Genesis. Okay, and I love that system to death. And then, I had a Nintendo 64 growing up and things like that. You had controllers and things like that, and you could easily get entertainment that way. And then when it came to virtual reality, I was just like, I'm not a big fan of putting on extra stuff that I already have just to entertain myself. Okay, I know how I want to entertain myself, and virtual reality is just not one of those things. It's not something that I'm gonna go, oh, let's go buy that. I mean, if one day I'll probably upgrade to another console, whether it be a PS4, I might get one secondhand, or if funds willing, I mean, and if I feel like it, I'll get a PS5 later on down the line. But I don't see the whole idea and the whole point of just, putting on something that's like putting on extra stuff to try and entertain myself. Like if I want to, I can easily, turn my PlayStation 3 on, open the YouTube app, open Netflix. I can, turn my iPad on, open Disney Plus or Netflix or any of the streaming services, Prime Video, and select something to watch, right? If I want to turn my PlayStation 3 on, I can easily put a disc in and play something, right? I have games saved to the hard drive, like the Telltale Back to the Future game, one of my favorites. Love that because I'm a big fan of Back to the Future, and it was really well put together. So I love stuff like that, okay? So when it comes to things like, I want to be able to use a controller, I don't want to have to put on sort of like a suit of armor to play a video game. It's just not something that I'm a fan of. It's not something I want to do, and that's the main reason, aside from getting motion sick, that prevents me from getting behind this whole like virtual reality gaming or virtual reality in general movement. Like I understand that technology has advanced so much that we're at that point now where VR is a real thing, that virtual reality is a real thing. It's just not my thing. I want to be able to sit on a chair at like my table, or I want to be able to sit on my couch while, looking at my TV with like my console on and a controller and enjoy the games that way. I don't need to strap something around my head, and I don't need to put gloves on my hands with sensors in them and try and swing like a virtual golf club or whatever. It's just no, man. I don't want to have to. When I'm playing a video game, I want to relax, not have to. Okay, cool. Like if I want to play Hot Shots Golf, I can throw that. I can fire up my PS3 and I can easily just, use my controller, press the X button to swing and hit the ball, right? Or press the O button to swing and hit the ball. And it's not something that I will ever get behind. It's not something that I know that I'm going to enjoy. It's not something for me. I understand that there are a lot of people out there that like this stuff, and kudos to you. But I have outlined my reasons. I prefer the controller. I prefer looking at what I'm playing instead of, oh look, it feels like I'm right here, because I'm never gonna get that feeling, right? Because I understand that I know that I'm playing a game, and the only thing that makes it feel like I'm right there is that I know that I'm going to be having to wear a headpiece or goggles or whatever, gloves with sensors in them, and like probably several third party or even first party kind of tools like they had with like Rock Band or Rocksmith or whatever you want to call it. It's just not my bag. It's not something that I can get with. I can enjoy gaming as much as the next person, but virtual reality, it's not my thing, and it's not something I know I'm going to enjoy. But that's just my opinion on virtual reality and VR gaming as a whole. I know that a lot of people out there enjoy it, and they have the PlayStation VR. Maybe even some of you had the Nintendo Virtual Boy back in the 90s. I'll link that episode in the description and in the show notes and probably in the YouTube cards if you so wish to go listen to that. But thank you all again for tuning in this week to another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I have been your host, LEIGHTDICKEY. Thanks again. What do you guys think of VR gaming and virtual reality in general? Do you have a PlayStation VR? Are you on board with this whole virtual reality gaming thing, or even virtual reality in general? Let me know. Post it in the comments. Follow along on social media at LEIGHTDICKEY. Send your comments, questions, guest requests, and topics you want covered to LEIGHTDICKEY@gmail.com. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube as well under LEIGHTDICKEY TV. Find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com, and your favorite podcast app and player of choice. Please do rate us 5 stars and leave us a review too as well. Thank you very much. But I've been LEIGHTDICKEY. This has been the Beats and Speaks podcast, and I am signing off. We'll see you all and talk to you all next Friday for a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. All right, LEIGHTDICKEY signing off. Peace. LEIGHTDICKEY.com